Hey, welcome to Tuesday's TikTok Tuesday with Coach and get your Q&A. So today, um, well, first, this is the IEP Coach, and I am Coach. I'm Alan Driggers. I am a special education advocate, former special education uh, teacher, focusing on behavior and kind of a wide breadth of things across the spectrum in a school setting, a large school, large high school setting. Did it for a number of years, and now reaching out and helping families with the IEP process and advocating with for families. But yeah, it's an interesting gig, man. You see a lot of stuff that you didn't know about as a teacher, as a campus leader, as somebody who really you know worked at developed and worked and built and led a program that was very effective. And we, when I decided to um, step away from education, and I moved into being an advocate because there's still a lot of change that needs to be made. And so we're going to be doing these weekly. So Tuesdays will be kind of a lunch time, 11:30. And then Thursday night at 7 Central, we'll be doing a Facebook Live, and so we will record all of them and put them out there for people to watch. If you're not here, not able to see it live, because we're going to go over, especially early when there's probably going to be less questions. To be honest, I mean, I'm just starting to do this, so we're going to just be consistent and do this regularly. And so if you're seeing this later after the live has gone off, feel free to add a question here. I will know about it. I will get it and I can answer that question. And also just know that we're going to be here regularly. So you can come join us, hey, hang out, ask questions. That's really what this is going to be for. I shouldn't be, but maybe 30, maybe 45 minutes at the extent, but these aren't going to be long. The Thursday night one could be a little bit longer. We could go up to an hour. But again, it's all going to depend on one, how many people show up and got questions. That's one thing. Two, I don't want to just sit up here and talk about nothing. So we're always going to have a topic to talk about, and then we'll go with questions. Can be pretty wide open, but your questions may be related to this. So today, what we're going to talk about is procedural safeguard. We're going to talk about this on Tuesdays and Thursdays for probably several weeks because procedural safeguards is one of those things that people know about, people have heard about it, parents in particular have received it. You're supposed to get it at least once a year for sure. And there are some other instances when it should be given to you. Teachers know about it, but know nothing about it, very little. And so what I noticed at school setting, we send these to parents usually via email nowadays, and usually with as an attachment with no explanation. And then when the parent comes to the IEP, they'll say, "Hey, do you have any questions? Did you get your procedural safeguards? Okay, sign here." Kind of scenario, stating that they got them. But there's very little time taken, very little effort made to explain this to both parents and teachers. And it's important. It's important because procedural safeguards are for parents. It contains all of their legal rights for their child. And so it's a lot of legalese. And so you do need to understand it. And one of the other things is it is supposed to be in the parent's language, native language, if needed, if requested. And so I know in Texas we've got 30 upwards of 30, 40 different languages that TEA, Texas Education Agency, has. Even though I'm in Texas, we work across the country, so your state will have something procedural safeguards, and they're in all different languages. We working in other states, you just depending on which one you're working with. Um, you just go to your state school board, your state board, state education board, state education agency, whatever that is. But these are all based, these all come out of IDEA, so they're all going to be the same pretty much. But in Texas, it comes through TEA and SpedTex. So SpedTex is a great site, great resource site for parents, teachers, advocates. So the first thing we're going to, excuse me, the first thing we're going to talk about with procedural safeguards, and the first thing that is in procedural safeguards are their definition of a parent. So first, it does explain. Here, I'll show you. This is this procedural safeguard. So it's about, I don't know how many pages this is. This, I think it's 30, 28. Let me look. I don't know what that was. Okay. Oh no, I was way off. It's 21. Okay. It just seems like a lot. But so yeah, so you get your procedural safeguard again. This is for Texas, because I'm in Texas, and we've got 8 million special education students in the country roughly, and we've got 10% of that's in Texas. So we got a lot. We got a lot of kids that need support, and so it's really important that we get this figured out and fixed. Some of the issues, which is another topic for another time. We're doing a series called "Broken Promises," so you can catch that and see that we're just released episode 2 a couple days ago. Episode 3 will be coming later in the week. But so procedural safeguards. So the idea under IDEA is it defines who the parent is, and so the parent is the one that is invited to the IEP meeting. The parent that's defined in here, and they're really truly the most important person. You're going to hear this a lot if you hang around here with me. You're going to hear about the parent is definitely the most important. They have. Uh, they are considered by both the state and federal uh, 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 education agencies or code as the expert in that child and your child. So a parent is the expert when it all comes down to it to the child. So you know your child better than anybody, and that's uh, why they go over kind of define who the parent is. So a parent obviously can be the biological parent, can be a foster parent, it could be a surrogate parent. You could have an aunt, an uncle. Um, one of the things that happens sometimes in divorce, you have one parent, as long as both parents get a say, as long as the court um, does not uh, remove the educational decisions for one parent. So when you work with an advocate, a lot of advocates want to see if you happen to have a divorce or child is a child of parents who had divorced, or a custody arrangement's been made. We want to see that as an advocate just so that we know who we need to contact, because I've had situations where one parent might be incarcerated. We have to make contact with that parent. That one parent's living overseas, and we have to do everything we can to contact that parent, to notify them that that they have a say in educational rights. And the beauty of it is, for situations like that, is we do everything pretty much on Zoom anymore, and so a parent doesn't have to live close to be a part of the IEP. So, anyway, so you have that. That's kind of the parent situation. So you definitely have to identify the parent, or and that's something that IDEA and the procedural safeguards defines. So if you have any questions, it's there. And again, that's usually pretty. Very seldom is that like a controversy. I mean, you're the parent, or you're the guardian, the legal guardian, not somebody who's just take an aunt taking care of their son, or I mean, their nephew or niece. Um, because a parent is unavailable, you have to have that legal transfer, and or that parent is responsible and the one that can make the decisions. So The next thing that's in procedural safeguards is child find. So child find is the legal responsibility for the school district to identify, locate, and evaluate all children who possibly could have a learning disability. Um, and that includes any child. So if a child is homeschooled, school should go find them. They still have a legal obligation to child find to evaluate test. That doesn't mean they're providing services if you're homeschooled, but you do have the right to be evaluated, and that kids in private school can be evaluated, and so it is the school's responsibilities. Now, how is this done? I mean, realistically, how is it done? It's done when a kid gets into school, and a teacher typically will be the first to notice. Or sometimes it's a parent too, but a parent will notice, hey, my child's not reading well. My child's having a hard time with communicating, or obviously there's a wide swath of potential eligibilities, but the hang on, no. The child find is the responsibility of the school district to go find kids, or when a, you- there is a reasonable understanding that this child might have a disability. And so there's some key things that you look for as a school-based member, things that are said by parent or by guardian or somebody else that works with the kid that should trigger child find. And so that happens. And so the next little area we're going to talk about is, well, I'll just say one more thing about child find. Child find is very typically younger, although it does happen at the high school level. You would hope by the time they get to high school that if a child's had some kind of a disability that impacts their education, that it was found long before they got to high school. But it does happen. There are things that would happen in a child's life. TBI, traumatic brain injury, is one that happens sometime. I mean, can happen later in life, that has nothing to do with earlier life. It could be medically need. I've seen kids that develop diabetes, type 1 diabetes late. I kind of wonder, how did they not have it when they were 10? I mean, now they're 15. And so there could be an IEP, but depending on the severity and the services that would need to be provided. But I mean, those are just a couple of examples. But there are reasons and times when at the high school level, you would child find would be implemented, but it typically is middle school. I mean, sorry, elementary and below. That's when you typically see it. You would hope you'd recognize it as early as possible. Kindergarten, first, second grade is where kids really learn to read, and they I'm sorry, I keep people invite me to come co-host their meeting in my own. But so they will at the elementary level, they will recognize it. So if you're learning to read first, second grade, kindergarten, first, second grade, and you get to third grade and you can't read, that's kind of where a lot of that kind of shows up. I mean, it does show up in first and second, but some kids can mask it until they get a little bit older. Um, so that's some that's child fine. So the next thing to talk about is what PWN. So this is a very interesting area that I often see schools not doing. Um, Honestly, it's called prior written notice. So prior written notice is when a parent. I'm going to read some of this straight from it so that we can understand. A parent, you have the right to be given written information about the school's actions relating to your child's special education needs. The school must give you prior written notice, a reasonable time before it proposes to initiate or change the identification, evaluation, or educational of your child, or free for or the free appropriate public education provided to your child. You have also have the right to prior written notice before the school refuses to initiate or change the identification, evaluation, or educational placement of your child or the free appropriate public education FAPE provided to your child. The school, this is where it gets interesting. The school must provide the prior written notice regardless of whether you agreed as a parent to the change or even if you requested the change. You have to be given a prior written notice. So schools must give you prior written notice at least 5 school days before it proposes to or refuses the action unless you agree to a shorter time. So what this is, and when you go into an IEP or an ARD in Texas, it's called ARDS, and they ask, do you want to waive your 5 days? This is what they're talking about. Because within that 5 days, you have some legal rights to challenge, to change, to not agree. You could, if they're proposing different settings or whatever, a stay put would go into place. Um, but they have to provide you in writing what they're doing, what change they're making, what request for evaluation they're making, regardless if the parent sits in the meeting and said, "Yeah, it's a great idea." They still have to provide you with paperwork. It's required. It's not an option. Okay, these aren't. I think I'm going to do this. No, these are. This is law. This is IDA federal law. So it doesn't matter what state you're in. It's all the same. Okay, state law doesn't supersede federal law. So the school must include in the prior written notice. So here you go. Here's what's got to be in it: a description of the action the school proposes or refuses to take, an explanation of why the school is proposing or refusing the action, a description of each evaluation, procedure, assessment, record, or report the school used in deciding to propose or refuse the action, a statement that you have protections under procedural safeguards of IDEA, an explanation of how to get a copy of this notice of procedural safeguards, contact information for individual organizations that can help you understand IDEA, a description of other choices that your child's ARD committee, IEP team, considered, and the reasons why those choices were rejected, and a decision of other reasons why the school proposes or refuses action. So that's a lot. It's a mouthful. So basically, what it says is after an IEP or ARD, if there is going to be a change or a change is requested and then therefore refused, the school is required to, in writing, called prior written notice, they have to provide this in writing. They have to tell you why, what it is, why they refused it, what data, what information did they use to refuse it or accept it. And they have to give you a procedural safeguard and tell you what your options are. You know, contact information for individuals or organizations that can help you in understanding IDEA. So how many times have you as a parent been told, hey, we're going to make this change. We're going to move Johnny from inclusion to resource. We're going to move him down to resource. Yeah, he needs to be he's behind. You don't agree. School. So there's some procedures that you have to reconvene to, a second meeting. The state looks at, federal looks at, that they do 2 honest attempts at negotiating, then it reverts back to the school. But with all that being said, How many times have you gotten a letter from the school stating what they're going to do? They send you the IEP packet, and I've seen prior written notice buried in there, but it's not a letter. It's usually a checklist, is what I've seen, and it doesn't go into great detail. It's a template that may or may not be filled out, but according to IDA, it's not it's not part of the IEP. It has nothing. I mean, it can come out of the IEP, but it's not part of the IEP. So it really needs to be delivered separately. Is the way I'm understanding it, and it's pretty evident that this is the intent of this. But if you were to get an IEP packet, and within that IEP packet, you had a dedicated letter, a dedicated prior written notice, that's not one of those things I'm going to say, hey, this is part of the IEP. We're not looking as advocates, anyways. We're not looking for schools or teachers to be perfect. We just want to see progress. So as long as the school is trying, I'm not going to get ticky tacky on technicality. Well, I mean, it doesn't serve any purpose. It just, to fight the fight, it delays the students getting the supports they need. There's just a lot. So if you can, if school is doing honestly, trying to do as a parent or as an advocate, let them, uh, you know, encourage them. It's tough, man. It's tough being a teacher right now. It's really tough being a special ed teacher. um, yeah, I mean, I've talked to people that have. I mean, there's so many that want to get that are considering getting out mid-year. There's just so many. It's a mess. It is honestly a mess. I saw a letter by a school board or a superintendent in the state of Texas at a large district, a guy that I really, really respect. I've had the opportunity to kind of interact with years ago. And so he was at a school before I got there, and then came to the school after I left. But definitely somebody that I highly respect, and he posted something just about his experience of people expecting people to be perfect in the school systems, and he's just exhausted. He is one of the best superintendent leaders probably in the state of Texas. I think a lot of people know who he is. I think he could definitely be in conversation for that, whether he is or not, but he's definitely in that conversation. Um, and he's like, I can retire in January. I don't want to. He just got to this new district. He was there last year. So this is probably his second year there. And he's making some great changes, but he's getting chased out because of all that is happening. So that's another topic. The day we can talk about our lovely state legislature making some of the stupidest laws, like um, you got to have a permission slip for a student to see the school nurse. So a kid cuts his knee, 8 years old, bleeding. Teacher can't put a band-aid, a nurse can't put a band-aid on him without parent permission. And it's just one note, but I'm just saying that's stupid. I mean, yeah, I can understand their parent, you know, parents need to be involved. I don't just, but come on, kid scrapes his knee in the playground, and we got to get a permission from the parent to put a band-aid on him. Stupid. So, anyways, that like I said, that's another topic another day. But I'm just saying, special education teachers and teachers in general are really struggling. They're not getting really support. Very, very, very. I don't know how many varies I can put in there. Very little support from the district level. And it's go see the Broken Promises episode. You'll see what I'm talking about. Um, so the school, it must give prior written notice. The notice must be written in a language understandable to the general public and must be translated into your native language or other mode of communication, unless it's clearly not feasible to do so. So one of the things that in Texas, we have, like I said, 30, 40, upper 30s, different languages of the procedural safeguards. We also have a video for people who are deaf where it's signed. So I thought that's kind of cool. I mean, so we've done that. Um, So, and then it goes in, if your native language or other mode of communication is not a written language, the school must translate the notice orally. So they got to orally translate it, or by other means in your native language or other mode of communication that you understand. Now, how often did this happen? It's never happened for me. I mean, we have Spanish speaking parents and we got Spanish forms. We have some other languages where I've worked. Um, Trying to think, Farsi. I mean, we've had a couple of things. I mean, usually, and so, um, but I can see this being definitely in your larger districts, urban districts, this being something where you have more. I can't imagine like in Texas. I can't imagine a place like Houston that is so diverse. It's you got because it's one of the largest cities in the country, and you got the oil business, so you got people from all over the world coming to Houston, and it's literally kind of a melting pot. So I would imagine native languages is needed at those, especially at those schools. So. Anyways, if at any time after the school begins providing special education related services to your child, you revoke your consent and you revoke your consent for services, the school must discontinue providing special education related services to your child. Before discontinuing services, however, the school must give you prior written notice at least 5 days before the service ends, unless you agree to a shorter time. A parent of a child with a disability may elect to receive written notices by electronic mail if the school makes such an option available. So they have to ask. I mean, they have to provide um, information to parents about changes, good or bad, however you want to view it. Any change of placement, any change request for evaluation or need for evaluation, anything that comes out of an IEP meeting, um, parents need to get what's called prior written notice. So prior written notice is nothing more than a written documentation of what the district is doing, and it happens. It's supposed to happen every time. If not, hey, you're great. We're going to move on. We're going to go ahead and implement these. I always recommend for the most part, that parents do not turn down the 5 day note, the 5 day implementation, unless it's it's something you've requested, your child needs. But if it's something new that you have questions about, go home, think about it. You don't have to sign there. I know the schools tell you got to sign before you leave the meeting. You don't. You can have up to 5 days to review it away from the school, because the fact of the matter is that schools just try to get through these IEP meetings. Often are booked at 30 minutes, every 30 minutes, and teachers, for the most part, teachers they will usually won't have more than, I guess, two a day, maybe. I mean, that's usually the most they're going to schedule. But I mean, I've seen more. But the people running the meetings, our facilitator, your APs, your school psychologist, all those folks, a lot of the depends on the size of school, they may have multiple in the course of a day, and I know they do. Plus, in addition of doing all their, um, you know, if they're doing evaluations or whatever. So with that being said, if you got any questions for me, feel free to ask. We're gonna shut this down here pretty quick, but we were going over procedural safeguards. That's the first part. We'll do some more on Thursday night. Again, Thursday night we'll be on Twitter. I mean, excuse me, we'll be on Facebook um, at 7 o'clock Central Time in the U.S. And so we'll do a very similar. This will be every Tuesday at 11:30. We'll go for about a half hour, unless we get a lot of questions. We can go up to 4 or 5 minutes an hour. This is just kind of a midday break for a lot of people if they want to pop on and get some questions answered. Parents, teachers. One of the things that I really, with the IEP coach, that I really trying to get my hands wrapped around. Um, when I became an advocate, when I left education, retired from education, and moved into an advocacy role, I know parents need it. I mean, what I knew when I was working for the schools is crazy. What I didn't know that I do now, and what I've learned really in a pretty short period of time. Um, that I was never taught, and I've got a master's degree actually I have 2 master's degrees, one in educational leadership, so for campus leadership and above, and I have one in special education. And I can truly say I didn't learn enough. I didn't know how to write an IEP. We were taught by my buddy that worked with me. He said, "Hey, this is how I do it." Who taught him? Same thing. And so teachers aren't trained. Again, this you can go over to our broken promises, but that's kind of the gist of it. Teachers aren't trained, parents aren't informed, and the kids are made to suffer. So my goal is to help teachers as much as possible. We've got to keep teachers in the industry, because what happens is that good teachers who understand and know how to are leaving, and then it starts all over again with a new teacher. And not that new teachers aren't great, but there is a learning curve, and there is I mean, it was just a teacher's been teaching for 10 years is going to know more than a teacher's teaching for the first year. I mean, it's just common sense. So anyway, so feel free to reach out, www.theiepcoach.com. You can ask questions there. They'll be shot to me via email. And you can also message here or message on any app that you are seeing this. And so with that, we're gonna call it a day. And we'll be back on Thursday night at 7 p.m. on Facebook. So you can go to the IEP Coach on Facebook. It should be you should be, it's the only one that you can with. I think it's got my mugshot on there. So not really a mugshot, but a headshot. All right. Y'all have a great day. Again, come ask questions if you got them. I'm here to help. I'm here to help. Have a great day.